Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fakes YouTube channel. My name's FPL Phillips and it's time for another weekly episode of Eddie versus the Algorithm, the series here on FPL YouTube, where I'm taking on the computer-generated algorithm team predicted to score the most points for each game week of the FPL season with a free hit draft of my own and seeing who can win the most game weeks over the 38-week campaign. So far, I'm doing pretty well, but before we get into having a look at the Game Week 9 team and which team the computer has predicted to score the most points for this game week, let's have a little bit of a quick recap as to how things went on in Game Week 8. And the algorithm scored a pretty respectable, considering it was a poor game week. 54 points wasn't too bad. Not captaining Mohamed Salah is basically something that determined a lot of people's success in game week 8, so 15 points from him. The double Crystal Palace defence did actually end up paying off, with Anderson and Mitchell both registering 6 points apiece. The triple up on the Spurs midfield definitely could have gone better. Of course, a bit unfortunate how that game played out, but 6-3-3, not the end of the world, I suppose, in the context of a poor game week. And then Watkins and Haaland up front. Haaland who blanked, and Tarkowski's 7 points there, sat down there at second sub, a little bit frustrating. But 54 points was what I had to beat, and my team going into game week 8 actually failed to do that. So I scored 46 points. My team had almost as much of a stinker as my actual team had. I don't even know Mohamed Salah right now, so that was, went even worse for me. I put the captain's armband on Son. After all that, Salah ended up being the right pick to go for. Pedro Porro did alright. The Spurs assets overall, apart from Son letting me down, were kind of the only other players outside of Salah who did anything of note. But overall, a pretty disastrous attempt at a free hit draft in that game week. So yeah, hopefully we'll move on to better things this week. But the algorithm does pull one back to make it 6-2 in the series so far this season after those opening 8 game weeks. Let's jump into having a look then at how the computer team is looking ahead of game week 9. And the algorithm is going to be sticking with the 4-3-3 formation that actually gave it some success last week. So it's sticking with that. I know it's just coincidence. The algorithm is obviously not taking into account that that formation won it for it last week. It doesn't even know that I'm playing this imaginary game against it anyway. So hey ho, let's move into having a look at who is in goal. It's 67 predicted points for the team this week, and 4.1 of those are coming from Turner, who faces Luton at home. We covered him in my team selection video yesterday. If you managed to catch that one, if you haven't, then of course I recommend you go and watch it via the channel down below, or it might be in your recommended tab up along the side if you're lucky. But yeah, Turner just looks like a standard pick for a lot of people this week who own him as their backup keeper. Going to start him over the likes of an Areola or Johnston, whoever keeper you have down there as your second option, really, as your primary keeper. Turner's going to be coming in for the majority of managers, I think, this week. And it's probably going to mean that whatever he ends up scoring isn't going to be all that significant in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, definitely a pick that looks sensible to go for at such a cheap price point as well. In the defence is where there's been a bit more budget allocated, so Trent Alexander-Arnold and Virgil van Dijk come in. So two pretty expensive assets, Trent especially, of course, starting the season at 8.0 million. He's predicted 5.3 points for this game as a Liverpool take on Everton in the 12:30 kickoff on the Saturday. At home, I think we have seen low-scoring Merseyside derbies in the past. I could definitely see a world where Liverpool do keep a clean sheet in this one. Everton haven't looked all that convincing going forward, of course, for quite a lot of the season, but I could definitely see them grabbing a goal still. So, personally, wouldn't be doubling up on the Liverpool defence, and I think there are better places you could probably allocate your funds for a team this week, which we're going to see what my draft is looking like in just a moment, of course. But yeah, that's my two thoughts, really. I think a lot of people will be looking to load up on Liverpool assets for their kind of fixture run that's coming up. It starts now, really, in game week 10, especially, is when a lot of people will be looking to get at least Mo Salah and probably maybe one or two others into their drafts. Whether Trent and Virgil are the ones to go for, I think that Alexander-Arnold will be a popular pick, as he always is. It's just probably having to sacrifice Salah or Haaland that would be the big thing that would put me off going for him in your backline. You've then got Pinnock. Burnley at home for Brentford is not too bad a fixture, but they haven't been in the best defensive form as of late. Pinnock, when Brentford perform well, does score very highly in terms of bonus points as well, and he has got some nice, decent attacking threat in there. His expected assist numbers do always look rather nice, so I don't hate that pick too much. Same the case with Trippier, really. Another pretty easy fixture, you would say. Home to Crystal Palace is by no means the best fixture on paper, but Newcastle are great at home when it comes to clean sheets. Crystal Palace have been lacking a bit of their firepower in the final third as well. They're relying very much on Eze at the moment. I think it's Edouard who's been out injured as well, so They've not had their most key players, I think, available. Whether they'll all be back and fit might make the difference in this one as to whether Newcastle are able to keep a clean sheet. But Trippier looks very good for this game week. A nice home fixture, and it's 4.7 points predicted for him. Into the midfield then, where Mo Salah is, of course, going to be in here. Don't really need to discuss him. 7.2 predicted points for him. It's interesting that he takes the vice-captain's armband, though. We did compare the captaincy picks for Game Week 9, who we kind of looked at having the same three options as in Game Week 8, with Salah, Son, and Haaland being the main pick. So if you want to see that discussion, once again, it was in the video yesterday. We then got Diaby and Mbomo in midfield, which is, again, something that I'm rather happy to see, given that Mbomo still somehow is in my team. Maybe he'll do well this week, maybe he won't. It seems like one of those ones where if you've still got him, probably hold on to him and hope that he can do some kind of punishment to the people who have sold him. But if you don't own him right now, then of course there's by no means any case to be bringing in Bryan Mbeumo for just this fixture. And then Diaby, who is probably one who I would be looking at maybe transferring in. He looks very good at the moment. Villa have some nice fixtures as well. West Ham United at home is maybe not the easiest of games by any stretch of the imagination, but Villa at home do look very good, and Diaby and Watkins have been performing exceptionally, even if they have, been substituted early at times. We saw them do some serious damage to Brighton. Whether they can kind of keep up that home form and, put some goals in against West Ham as well, I put some decent money on there being maybe at least 2 goals for Aston Villa in that one. But West Ham have been a very formidable defence at times. Whether they can go away to Villa and show that kind of strength at the back, we shall see. And then finally, up front, we've got Erling Haaland taking the captain's armband. We've then got Visser, and we've also got Watkins. So, excuse me, Watkins and Visser, 2 picks that maybe for this game week in isolation don't actually look the best for me. I think that Visser could easily be the one that, Brentford score 2 goals in that game against Burnley, and Bomo's not involved, and Visser scores both of them. I can see that definitely happening. It's not really based on too much statistical data, be it given, but Visser has been still ticking over with a few returns here and there, even when Mbomo's been in pretty terrible form. So, it has been him who's been grabbing assists for goals and stuff when we've all been frustrated by Mbomo doing nothing. It's often been because there have been other Brentford players involved in the goals, and Visser has been one of them, despite being not a very popular pick at the moment due to the likes of Ollie Watkins, who look very strong. Having said that, with him, again, the West Ham fixture is still one where I would back Villa to get a goal or 2. Whether or not I'll double up on the attack myself, you'll have to see in just a moment. But before that, we'll reveal the bench, where we have Areola down there, as well as Starr, Nakamba and Thomas, so nothing of note really there. Let's have a look at my team, and then you guys can let me know down below in the comments, which team do you think is going to win this week? My side or the Algorithm 11? At an initial glance, you might think maybe the algorithm's going to edge it. Maybe you'll think that I'm going to edge it. I've gone with actually a double Spurs defence, which is maybe a little bit of a bold call. Fulham at home, Spurs don't keep many clean sheets. They are a very attacking side, but I've more gone for them for their attacking threat rather than looking too much into the clean sheet potential. But I've stuck with Turner and Trippier, where I'm hopeful of maybe at least 1 clean sheet between those two anyway. Hopefully Udogie and Porro can get forward. They've looked pretty good on international duty. Udogie has anyway. I think he looked decent for Italy. We know how he's been playing with Spurs. His underlying data looks fantastic, as does Porro's in the last couple of game weeks. And we can see from the eye test when you watch Spurs, if you have, that Porro is just very influential in the attack and is getting into some great positions. I've also kept Son in, and I think that he is the pick of the Spurs midfielders, to be honest. It's him and Maddison very tight. But it was Kulusevski who also made it in last week for the algorithm, who I don't think is too much of a consideration. But I've got him in my midfield, alongside Mo Salah, of course. Bryan Mbeumo, who I am blindly sticking faith with. And then we've got GW8, who's my little bit of a punt this week. Going with him up against Luton at home. Nice fixture for Nottingham Forest. They tend to do pretty well at their home ground. Luton are pretty poor away. Maybe he can grab a goal or 2 in that one. And then finally up front, we've got Watkins, we've got Haaland still, who does take the captain's armband in that fixture against Brighton. And then I have also gone with Julian Alvarez. Now, Man City haven't been in the finest goal-scoring form as of late, but Alvarez does still look good. And to be honest, if City are able to get a few goals in that one, which with Brighton's defence recently, you'd maybe back them to, then I think Alvarez will be involved for sure. And I've kind of got both Man City strikers there. I'd be very disappointed if I came away with no returns in that fixture. But yeah, that's probably famous last words, and maybe I should touch the wood of my desk right now. But yeah, 63 predicted points for my side. I've got Kabore, Taylor, and Chukwuemeka down there on the bench. He should be returning from injury shortly, and 4.3 million midfielder, if anyone's interested. Maybe we'll be getting the minutes we saw for him at the start of the season when he returns to action. Of course, because he was out for a while, they might tend to work him back into the team more slowly, but still quite an exciting option. And maybe when I'm on a wildcard in the near future, or if you are on a wildcard and you're looking at maybe going with a 3-4-3 formation, then he could be that kind of fifth bench midfielder to have in your side. But it's quite a bold choice to go with a 4-man midfield right now, given how many options there are who are looking good in the middle of the park. But yeah, that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Eddie versus the Algorithm. Make sure to leave a thumbs up on the video if you did enjoy it. It really does help us out here. Subscribe, of course, if you are new. My light has just gone off, so I'm going to end things here. But I hope to catch you in the next one. And goodbye. Hopefully there won't be any more technical difficulties in the next videos. But yeah, I'll see you soon. Hopefully there.